Hello, friends. It is 12 o'clock on Wednesday. What does that mean here at Tangled Silver Magazine? It means the Ageless Lounge for this week is starting up. I'm super excited. We have a great guest today. Debbie with the Ageless Woman Movement is going to be joining us. And I am just about to invite her to come on board, but just want to do a quick little couple of housekeeping things. I would first say thank you to our sponsoring partners, I Embrace and Sensation Silver. It's them sharing and being a part of our magazine that helps us do these fun little projects like this. So I'm going to go in here real quick because we are live. I'm going to go in and add her into our system. 3, 4, count down as it kind of starts to go open. So let's see. Are we there? Debbie, are you there? Let's see. Except there we come. Yay!
We did it.
We did it. We did it. Hello, Sarah. It's going great. Going Rachel. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming on board with Debbie and I today. Debbie, welcome, welcome. Now, I always start off telling everybody, as much as I want to wave at everybody and I want to respond to your questions that you might throw up in here, we're going to do our best to do that. But these days are really about the conversations, and I don't know about Debbie, but it's easier for me to pay attention to the conversations than it is to be trying to read everything and trying to listen to conversations. So know that you can always reach out to us afterwards, her or myself, with any questions you might have. If you're not following us, be sure to do that. Hello. I'm trying to wave at some people. Ooh, let's not do that. But we're going to get started. And Debbie is with the Ageless Woman Movement. But my first thing I want to ask her, because it kind of ties into what her movement is called, what the lounge is called, is, Debbie, what does being an ageless and timeless woman mean to you? Oops. We might be losing you a little bit, Debbie. You look like you might be frozen on us. And that's when you know things are live, everybody. Let's see. Debbie, we might have to have you go out and come back in potentially if you can hear me. Let's see, Debbie. Let's try this again. I'm trying to put you back in here, Debbie. There we go.
There we go,
Ann. All right.
I don't know what happened.
That's part of going live, right? Things happen and we just roll with them.
Exactly.
So do you remember we were asking you what it means to you to be ageless and timeless?
Well, not to be worried about age at all. To me, it's not about age. It's more about what you're doing with your life, where you're at, where you're going, taking care of your journey, taking care of you. And honestly, I care less about my wrinkles or my crepey skin than I do about forming really close relationships and gaining wisdom, perspective, and all those things seem to outweigh everything else for me. So it's just a human being going through the stages of life. I don't consider it aging. Timeless maybe is a better word.
Right. Well, that's why I like ageless and timeless. When I look at the definitions of those, it literally is not stamping us by our birth dates as to how we live our life, right? Which is so important. And as many know, the magazine was started to kind of spotlight those of us embracing grays and silvers and whites, because there wasn't enough representation showing that we are still rocking life, that life was not on the downside because we're hitting 50 plus. Life is actually, for a lot of us, just really getting to this really sweet spot, I like to call it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
When I met Debbie, I saw for some she's got this ageless movement. So I wanted to kind of give us a quick overview before we start talking about what is the ageless movement that you've got going?
I really wanted to not only coach women into fully embracing themselves and being exactly who they are and not worrying about their age or anything else, but to just embrace where they are in life. And I really would like to change the cultural aspect of aging, particularly where women are concerned, because it seemed to be quite okay for men to age. In fact, they got hotter and wiser and cooler, and women were not looked upon that way. And I just thought that was wrong.
Right.
I said, why is it that way? That just doesn't seem right to me.
Why do they get to be silver foxes and we are just getting older?
Yeah. I just felt that, we embrace so much power and but gentle power, not that power maybe of your 30s and 40s, but a very gentle, wise power that is just to me just very classy. Yeah, good. It's all good.
Oh,
I want to be hotter and cooler. I see that. Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly. Especially the cooler part when we're going through menopause, right? Like, especially the cooler part.
Bring
Well,
the
let's
fans
talk just a
on.
little bit. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit because what I love about you is I started seeing things is that, I really said today we were going to talk about regaining our confidence because you kind of went through a journey of your own and kind of took back and are now following a passion that you've had. So can you share a little bit about how you took back your confidence?
Wow. That was a long time coming for me. I had a really difficult marriage, 6 great kids. The marriage came to an end when he passed away from cancer, and I was really, frankly, quite a mess. Psychologically, emotionally, my physical health was affected by my chronic stress. And it was really just me not knowing enough at the time and how to deal with all of that. I couldn't speak up for myself. I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do, what pleased me. It was all about everybody else. And not to be complaining about that, I just didn't, care about what I wanted. It was all about everybody else. But when he passed, and there was a lot attached to that, I won't get into that now, but my 50s, he passed away when I was 53. My 50s were an amazing decade. It was laced with so much journey and wisdom and discovery and just coming through a lot of things, learning how to take care of myself, turning all of my health conditions around, because I always embraced health, like from back in the 60s. It was all about, drinking juice out of the garden, juicing and doing things that other people weren't doing at the time. And so I was always embraced health and fitness. But here I was in my 40s sick, and it was all from stress and it was all from emotions. And yeah, it was all really from blocked emotions, psychological stress. And then I just, my 50s, I just kind of just stood up one day and just said, I'm changing my life. I'm just changing my life. And I did. And it wasn't all of a sudden, it was gradually as I looked forward to changing things and getting out from where I was. And I still had 4 or 5 children at home to raise when he passed. My youngest was only 9 when he passed away.
Oh my gosh.
So there was a lot on my shoulders. Yeah, there's more to that story, but I'm trying to keep it light. In my 50s, I can remember thinking, what is left for me? I just feel washed up. I just feel, I don't know. Then I just started walking and exercising and taking care of myself more. I got therapy. Therapy was kind of helpful. The talk therapy wasn't greatly helpful, but a little bit. Then I moved on to other modalities that were helpful. And as my health conditions started turning around, I was gifted a certain amount of money at 59, and I had already come through all my health conditions. And to now they were well managed. I was feeling really good. I was at a great weight. I was a good place mentally, emotionally. Everything was doing good. And I said, you know what? The old me would have either spent that or paid bills with it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna invest in myself. You know what? I don't know how much time I have left on this earth, but I'm going to do what I really want to do, and that's to teach others how to take better care of themselves, teach women how to stand up for themselves, teach women how to say no when they need to, how to speak up, and just as you're taking care of other people, not forgetting about yourself. And I got really, really super passionate about that idea. So the first thing I did was enrolled in the Institute of Integrative Nutrition and became a certified integrative nutrition health coach. And it started there. I said, I just want the credentials to be able to say, hey, I can walk you through this. But then like the certifications just didn't stop from there. I mean, I was what, 59, 60 when I did that. And then I became a yoga teacher because I couldn't find a class that was suitable to my needs. So I learned how to teach yoga and offered the class that I needed to other people like me. So, it was just, I'm just kind of one of those kind of people. If it's not there, I'm going to create it, you know?
Well, I love that you said that, you were busy kind of taking care of everybody else and didn't realize where your health had gone. And then all of a sudden you're waking up and going, ah. And then you said you would have normally taken that money and either spent it, put it on bills, maybe spend it on the kids, right? Because that's what most of us women do. We spend everything on everybody else first before we start taking care of our little souls, right? And so I love that you made that decision that this time, nope, you're gonna take care of you. You're gonna put what you want to do, and I love that that's what you've jumped into to reach out and start giving back. And the whole, couldn't find it, so created. I mean, I totally resonate with that, which is that's why
Yeah.
magic is here. Couldn't
Yeah,
find it, so created it.
exactly. I can so remember calling my dad and sharing it with him, and he's like, what in the hell are you thinking about? You're too old to be doing that. What do you want to go back to school for? I'm like, I'm doing it. And I never regretted it. And I went on to get 5 other more certifications. I mean, it just didn't stop. I was just like, I'm going to figure it out. Now I'm in a position. My my current husband, who I met several years after I became widowed, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia 4 years ago. And so I suddenly got thrown into a caregiver role. So what I do when challenges face me or hit me, because I got to a point where I couldn't even work on my business any longer because it was just so consuming. I always ask, what is there for me to learn in this? What do I need to know through this experience? And so it taught me how to love better, taught me more about love. It taught me patience, even when I thought my patience were coming apart at the seams. And I thought I was like the person with endless patience. And I found out that I wasn't. I didn't have endless patience, but I did discover that I had boundaries, which I really never exerted before I had before. So in that experience, I learned, what I needed more to know about life. And that's pretty much how I face everything. What do I need to know so that I can help others? That's really me.
Well, it sounds like that piece is what that confidence you stepped into, like especially with the boundaries. Like you may know, like I really don't want to do that, but then you got all this pushback, right? Because when we start setting boundaries, people don't necessarily like change, right? Especially if you're suddenly setting boundaries that before they could walk all over. Like if they needed you and they just call you to drop a hat and you're always there, and suddenly you say you're not, like, well, what's going on with her? Why is she changing? Why is Debbie not doing that anymore? Instead of realizing that there's a whole bigger picture to it. And like I think that you just from what you said, even just with your second husband, rather than looking at it and going, oh my gosh, here I go again, you were like,
Yeah.
Oh, here, what can I take from this? And I think as more of us kind of looked at those situations rather than like, oh, here I go down the tubes again, or here goes another rough. When am I going to get over these rough patches? But we try to focus on what those lessons are that we're getting from them. Like you said, you learn to love deeper. I mean, I think those are magical words right there that you just didn't just give in, but you figured out how to see the light at the end of the tunnel and get through.
Oh, your mindset about everything means everything. And you're right. I could have said that. Oh my gosh, really? Now this? But no, it's just part of life. Unfortunately, illness is a part of life. I don't think it has to be, but sometimes it is. I mean, these are things you don't expect sometimes. He was an avid runner, 6 miles a day, avid sports player. He played competitive softball for 54 years. No one expected him to get Alzheimer's dementia. But here we are. So, things happen in life. You try to prepare. You're not always prepared. You do the best you can. And then when you find out, when you learn more, you teach more. That's where I come from anyway. I like to teach. I like to help others, particularly with the way they're thinking about something. It's our thinking that causes our suffering, not the event so much. It's the way.
Could you say that? Could you say that again? Say that again, because I think that's really key for people to say that again.
Okay, it's not the event that causes your suffering. It's the way you think about it. It's what is rolling around in your mind on that event or on that subject that is causing your suffering.
Yes, you couldn't have said that better. So many of us don't understand how. So we all hear that your words are powerful, but our minds are even more powerful, and that subconscious of what we're telling ourselves or
Yes.
allowing in. Like we're right there on the side going, I look great, but if on the inside you're still going, no, you don't, no, I don't, no, I don't. Like who's going to win, that inside or outside piece, right? I mean, so I love, like I quoted you with your statement about finding your purpose or your second or third. You know, it's easier when you get, what I'm trying to grab it, it's easier when your subconscious blocks are treated and out of the way.
Oh,
Can you
for
speak to that a little
sure.
bit?
Oh my gosh, if somebody had told me when I was a teenager going into my 20s that I would end up speaking, talking in front of hundreds of people on brain health, I would have been, are you crazy? I could never imagine myself getting up in front of anybody and speaking. And today it's so different. How I feel today at 70 is so different. I'm just, not that I'm confident. I'm confident, but what it really is that I don't care about judgment. I mean, I don't, I don't judge others, and it doesn't bother me if others are judging me, and I don't worry about it. Alls I think about is my message and how to get that message across the best way I can. And everything else doesn't even matter.
So that's fabulous. I wish more of us thought like along those lines, right? Let go of what everybody else thinks. I mean, one of my favorite sayings is to always tell people, I may not be your shot of tequila, and that's okay. I don't have to be. Because we all have such different pieces that we bring to the table. And if you can take what you have and, like you said, not worry about somebody else not liking you or not worried about, I mean, again, not judging them and having them not judge you or not care that they're judging you. And that is something I think that definitely comes. I was having a conversation this morning with a woman. That comes, I think, with age. As we start getting there, we start realizing that all those little things that we used to be so upset about really are
Oh
minuscule in
yeah.
this world,
It
right?
doesn't matter what other people think of you. It matters whether or not you're doing what you're called to do. If
And
you,
how would you, sorry,
no, go ahead.
how would you speak to somebody who like, or how would you start the conversation with them if they're going, well, I have no idea what my purpose is, right? Like my kids are out, my purpose was being a stay-at-home mom or making sure I got my kids out the door and they're not out the door and here I am, I'm 50, I'm going to start over, or I'm going through a divorce, I got to start over. I mean, how would you tell them to kind of figure out what that purpose for them might be? Is there like a little triggering of the inside they feel like, what would you suggest be something that they look to for if they're going, I don't get what my purpose is here now?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'd say be still and drop the worry about it and start to meditate. I know a lot of people have trouble with meditation, but a meditation could be as simply as walking around the block and noticing the way the light's coming down to the trees and just, notice. A lot of it is paying attention to who you are. Who are you? Are you a giver? Are you a teacher? Are you a baker? Are you a comforter? Like, who are you at the core? And how do you want to give back? And what would you like to do? Do you want to create a business? Well, first of all, decide what it is you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, with your gifts or your talents, do you really want to start your own business? Some people say, well, hell no, that's fine. Do you want to travel
Right.
with your friends? Do it. You want to paint and learn how to paint and learn how to create and do it. I'd say you find those answers in the stillness, and you find those answers as you notice what other people say to you, such as, I always feel so comfortable when I'm around you. You make me feel so good. You might be a comforter. That might be your role. Your role might be to visit people that are ill or whatever and need a comforting presence. You might be great at holding space for somebody. You might be a fabulous listener. Or you might be extremely businesslike and definitely want to start a business. And I'd say just figure out what your passion is and start there.
So what I hear you saying is really it's about being still and listening to not just yourself, but then kind of being open to listening to pick up on the clues that other people might be giving you
Yeah.
that you don't even hear, right? That
Or you don't even notice about yourself.
yeah.
I can't tell you, it's just so weird. I can't tell you how many times people would say to me at a party or a gathering, they would just stand next to me and they'd say things to me like, I don't know what it is, but I just feel really calm and peaceful when I stand next to you. And so the very first name that I gave myself when I began coaching was the Inner Peace Coach,
Oh, okay.
because that's what people kept telling me. I feel so peaceful when I'm around you. I feel so peaceful when you you know, whatever. So, I mean, I didn't keep that title, but I was listening. The point is I was listening to hear what others were feeling when I was with them. You know, maybe you have great party skills. You love to plan. You love to invite. You love to hostess. That could be your thing. That could be your gift. That could be it. I would say you find those answers again in the stillness, looking at who you are, what you really love to do, and not to worry about it because it'll come. What you are meant to do, what your purpose is, it'll come.
And how do you battle the subconscious thoughts? Like, you know, we're all here. Let's use the silver, right? Like somebody's going, I want to go silver, but subconsciously they're going, oh, but my mother's going to say something about it. My friends are going to do what are you? You're crazy. Like, you know. So how do we counter some of that to just trust in ourselves, right? How do we just trust that? You know, because it's really easy. Like for me, I tell you, I don't care what anybody thinks right now. I don't have to do tequila. You can say you don't care either, right? Because but for those that are on that fence line of they want that freedom, they want to feel that, but like they're hearing us talk about that and going, oh, there's no way I can just not care. Like there's no way I can not care what my husband thinks about my hair or my husband thinks about my job.
I think that's more important for most ladies is they don't want to be unattractive to their husbands, or they don't want their husbands. Yeah, I totally get it. Usually when somebody if they're not ready to go gray, and if that's really a concern to them, I'd have that conversation with the hubby. Hey, what do you think? Look at these beautiful women out there with silver and white hair. What would you think? You know, and if it upsets you that much, if it disturbs you, if his response is disturbing to you, then by all means, you know, if it's more important for you to continue dyeing your hair, then to do that. You'll know you're ready to go gray when it's time.
When you're ready.
Yeah. When you're ready. And I had my current husband, he told me he didn't care about it. I don't know how I would have felt if he said, no, don't do it. He did prefer me when I was blonde, but to me, I wasn't being authentic to myself. And here I am, a health coach. I know what dye is doing. I know that dye is not good for you, especially the darker dyes. And here I am pouring dye on my scalp. So I'm going to quit and just decide to rock it, you know, because for me, again, we're all individuals. For me, it just felt more authentic. And I say, whatever makes you feel really good and authentic, that should continue doing that. But as far as a negative thought, I do want to talk about that for a minute. So tell me what you think a really common negative thought is.
I'm not good enough.
Oh,
that's a huge one.
Okay.
I'm not good enough.
You're not good enough. You're not good enough about what? You're not good enough for who? Not good enough to compete? Not good enough whatever?
I'll use the example with me. I'll throw myself out.
Okay.
I really struggled with who am I to be started a magazine? I didn't have a background in journalism. I didn't have a background in, I'm very creative and I can visualize what I want. But there are those moments where when you're struggling with your business, you're like, who am I? Am I good enough to really be doing this? Right?
That imposter syndrome thing. Yes, I get it. So, okay. So you write that thought down. Who am I? I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as the other ones that have those degrees or whatever. I'm just, oh my gosh, how can I be successful? Okay. You write down that negative thought. Now you go through 4 steps, 4 questions. First question you ask yourself, is that true?
Right.
You might think it's true. You might go, well, I think it's true, right? Mm-hmm. The second question is it 100% true that you're not as good as everybody else? Is that 100% true?
Right. That's if I would say no.
Okay, so no. Okay.
I've gotten to that point now.
Now, third question, I love this. The third question is, when you have that thought, how does that make you feel? Makes me feel inferior. It makes me feel unworthy. It makes me feel not good enough. It makes me feel inferior. Go through how that thought makes you feel. Because what you put out to the world, you're going to get back, right? How does that make me feel when I have that thought? Okay. Last question. Who would I be without that thought? I'd be a fabulous photographer. I would be a fabulous curator because I don't have that idea in my mind. You would be confident, you'd be self-assured, you'd go ahead with your passion if you didn't have that thought, right? So
Yep.
now you go back and you reconstruct the thought. And so the idea is not to make this pie in the sky, unrealistic intention that doesn't feel true. What you want to do is coach yourself to say something accurate. So you want to be accurate with your thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so the accuracy could be something like this. Even though I don't have maybe some of those accolades other people have, I'm really good at what I do and I know it. And don't let anybody tell you different. There are a lot of talented, fabulous people out there that don't have all the degrees and certifications and are just as good.
Right.
So don't let anybody take away your natural talent, ever.
So did you hear that, everybody? She's talking not just to me right now. She's talking to all of us. Like, literally, think about those steps. Re-listen to this and jot those steps down. If you need to take notes, remember to use them on yourself because those are key. I totally agree with you. I'm all about when it comes to, especially the gray. I always tell people, when you walk out the door, if you're walking out the door telling yourself you look ugly and dull and boring, that's the energy you're taking out into the world, and that's how they're going to see you. But if you walk out, like you said, you're rocking it, they're going to pick up on that energy, and they're going to be like, oh, wow, like, oh, man.
People do see your energy. They feel your energy. They see your energy. And that's so how you feel about yourself is what you tell the world, for sure.
Yeah.
The Silver Maid. Totally agree. I'm looking at some of these comments. I haven't been looking at the comments because we've been busy talking.
I know it's hard to look at them, but like, there's Tracy come in here now. Look at it. Say hello, hi Tracy, and yes, Sherry is one of the best that I think lives like what we're talking about. It is just being true, listening, and being true to yourself.
Oh yeah, oh yes. Be true to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I really just had to get to that point of I don't really care what anybody else thinks. I know I'm worthy.
So give me an idea of what's going on now with aging women's movement. What is your like ultimate goal with creating this now?
Well, in the beginning, it was just for pleasure, just for fun, and just for really helping women to go through those stages from the 40s through the 50s through the 60s. Now I'm 70. I'm just turning 71 next week, you know, and I feel.
Early birthday.
Thank you. And to and just give them some ease, you know, like, oh my gosh, what I would say to a 50-year-old now is, you have no idea how young you really are. I mean, you are really young and you don't know it. And
right.
That's the pity. You don't know it when you're young.
Yeah,
you think you're aging. No, I'm 70. I'm looking at you. That was me 20 years ago. You were young. Your energy level. Happy early birthday. I just turned 55 on 8/16. Happy birthday. I think the 50s are a wonderful decade. The 60s were too. I'm not complaining about 70s. I haven't really gotten through much of it yet, but I can tell you that my quality of energy has changed over the decades. You know, I'm much more careful about my energy today. I do say no when I need to. I don't go out if I've said yes to an invitation and it turns out at the end of the day that I'm too wiped out. I very, very cordially let my guests know I'm not going to be coming tonight. I've had a long day.
Yeah.
And I don't force myself to go and do and be like I used to. Now I'm very I'm very protective about my energy.
Well, probably the energy of those who you let in around you too, right? Because our energy is important, but also, you know, we tend to feed off of the energy of each other as well. So if you're letting somebody come in that's kind of like not in a good space as well, sometimes that can kind of, if you're not real protective, you can kind of pick up on a little bit of that, and it can kind of spiral you a little bit into that kind of mood swing too, right? So it's really important to protect your energy as well as who you kind of let into it. So it's good that you can recognize when you can do something or can't do something. And that word no, that was a big one for me to learn in the last 5 years, about it's okay to say no, and it doesn't mean I'm doing it to be mean. It doesn't mean I'm doing it to hurt somebody's feelings, but that it's not serving me anymore, and it's okay for it to no longer serve me.
It's necessary to say no, and you don't have to say. I think people are mostly afraid of offending somebody or letting somebody down, and I know that was definitely me. I'm definitely a people pleaser. I always like to say yes and take on more than I really could. I don't do that anymore. I know my limits now. But you are the only one that can protect you. And so you just have to learn how to do that.
And that's a hard piece of it. That's kind of that finding our confidence of taking back and going, okay, it doesn't mean just sometimes people so if you're giving yourself self love, isn't that selfish? And I was like, no, I don't think that's selfish at all. Because if you can't love yourself and you can't fill your own cup, how are you supposed to fill anybody else's if you have nothing?
Oh, that's absolutely true. Oh yeah. It's very important. Self-care is so important. I can't even say it enough. Is it self-love? I never really thought about it that way. I just think about it as self-care because no one else is going to take care of you except for you.
Mm-hmm.
Really. I mean, if you keep saying yes and you keep doing, I mean, people just say, oh, great, that's great, but no one's looking out for your, you have to know where your energy stands.
Right.
Are you too tired to do something? Are you too whatever? Yeah.
Well, and even when we are doing like the check-ins with ourselves, if somebody's checking in with you, right? And they're going, "Hey, are you okay?" They still don't know truly what's okay for you. Like what's okay for them may not be the same okay for you. And so that is really important just to recognize that in yourself and be free enough to stand up to it and say like, no, that's not okay with me anymore. I gotta leave. Or yes, this is working. Like that's so important. And especially for the confidence level of when we're taking on projects and being confident and like it's okay to say no, it's okay to say yes to what feeds me.
Know your boundaries. Yeah, know where you need to draw them. I mean, if I'm exhausted and if I decide to leave, it's not because I'm not enjoying the company. It's because I'm truly breaking down and my energy is breaking down. I need to go home. But I try to avoid that. If I'm to that point, by the end of the day, I just don't go. But yeah, I'm so much more careful about what I eat, what I do, how much I take on. I try to be anyway. Sometimes I overdo it, but I'll check in with myself and say, okay, Debbie, what is it that you need? What do you need right now? You need to go home, take a nice cool bath, and just lay down. And I will do that.
So would you say you're on your second or third chapter then, your second or third purpose at this point? Or do you see another purpose coming down the road now that?
My basic purpose is serving others, and I love coaching people. That is my thing. My purpose is providing emotional relief. It gives me so much satisfaction to bring people out of chronic stress syndromes. Yes, and so yeah, what I teach and what I coach has changed along the way. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, it was more about health and eating and fitness and all of that, and now it's more protecting your brain and really understanding what is motivating you, understanding the programs behind what you do, mm-hmm. Working with those subconscious blocks and letting them go.
I feel like that's a key. I feel like that's a key thing from what I'm
really is.
Really working on those subconscious blocks.
Yes, that'll sabotage you almost every time if you're not aware of them. So yeah, to just say no, I can't. I'm seeing some of the messaging.
Yeah. So Trey is saying that no is such a big word for her because she just retired from education and she's already being asked to substitute. And it's great to say no. Like yes, like again, feeding your soul and knowing when you need to say yes. That's a great point, Tracy. And congratulations on your retirement into the fun place that you're at right now.
Yeah, and have fun. I mean, if possible, have more fun.
Do you find yourself, like what I'm noticing is that I'm wanting to try, like I shouldn't say I wasn't adventurous, like I was pretty crazy at my time in my 20s, but now I find myself like, oh, I want to kayak. I'm going to kayak now. People are like, but you had your hips replaced. So I'm like, it doesn't matter that I had my hips replaced. I'm going to kayak if I want to kayak. I think that we get to this stage where we're kind of, people have the misconception that when you hit like 50, 40, 50, whatever, all of a sudden things start kind of going like you're on the downslide. And I almost feel like to some level, because I don't care about other people's opinions, it's okay to go out in that bikini on a kayak if I want to. And if I fall, I fall. If I get up, it's just this newfound freedom I feel. And I mean, would you agree with that? That like we're really kind of embracing more because we're letting go of some other stuff that we held us?
I'd say for many people that's true. For me, maybe not so much, only because like for me, I'm just naturally a cautious person.
Okay.
So I probably wouldn't be that adventurous type. Like, I'm going to go skydiving. I'm going to do this. And yeah, I have arthritis, but I don't care. I'm going to go do that. What I do now is that I pay more attention to the way my body feels. And I'll either say, yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to do that. When my body gives out, I go, okay, it's time for me to go home. It's time for me to stop. I don't push my body, because when I do, I end up in a ice bath for 3 days. You know, so I've set limits for myself to protect myself. But that's
Yeah.
just where I am at now, so.
But I mean, that kind of still falls into, like, I like to try, like, I always wanted to kayak and never did. And now I'm doing it. But again, I also just said that, I had both my hips replaced in 2016. So I also have to be very aware, because if I sit in let's say a couch that is really soft, I fall back, I feel like I'm going to pop my hips out, because I can't quite do some of the things I used to do. And then I can do other things just like I used to do. But I have to, like, really tune into what my
That's
body is
right.
telling me.
That's
Can you do that
it.
or
That's
not?
the key. That you said it. That's the key. Tune in to how your body is feeling. Give your body what it needs for that moment. Learn how to readjust a few things. You can still do things. You just may have to tweak it a little bit. That's fine.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have to get down and play. Like, I wrestle with my grandkids, and every so often I'll go, well, don't break Nona. We don't want to break Nona. Nona can't quite do that. So it's just recognizing it. So I think it's
Yeah.
that's why I really resonated with you and the Ageless Woman, and the fact that you kind of reinvented your journey at a much later life. Because sometimes people go, like you said, your dad told you, what are you doing? Like, you're too old to go back to school, right? But yet you did it anyways, and didn't let the mindset of somebody who could have
Age
been.
didn't mean anything to me at that moment. I felt so good about life and about my life. That chance for renewal is what I felt. When everything was like, after he passed away and we were settling into a new routine with the kids, and I started feeling much better about life. And my attitude then was, I'm not going to let anybody or anything stop me from really what I want to do. Age at that point meant nothing to me.
And I think that's a perfect way to kind of wrap up what we've been talking about. Again, Ageless Lounge, and the fact that, like you just said, age had nothing to do with what you wanted to do. And I think that's key. And that if we get that message being loud and clear constantly more often, people will stop associating with, it will no longer be like, oh, 40s, 50s, you can or can't do this. It'll just be like, oh, how are you feeling? Oh, you can certainly do that. It really should be more about what we're feeling and not being defined by our ages. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to share with anybody before we wrap this up and get back to our
Well,
Wednesday?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much, Robin, for inviting me to come on here with you and chat. I just love doing this. I love sharing these thoughts with other women. It's just, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming on board. I'm the one who feels like blessed that you actually said you'd come talk with us a little bit today. So, and I guess somebody's giving us big kisses to all the women. Thank you, thank you. And again, everybody, if you have any questions for Debbie, you can follow her over at Ageless Woman Movement on Instagram. Are you on Facebook as well?
I am definitely on Facebook. I'm more active on my Facebook group than I am in Instagram. So that'd be a great way to follow me, is the Ageless Woman Movement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that as well, or reach out to me and I'll connect you to her as well. But give us both a follow. And again, everybody, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday lunch hour with us. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next week at the next Ageless Lounge. Thank you, Debbie.
Bye,
Thanks,
ladies.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay. As far as the closing stuff, it's always a little crazy. There we go. And we're in.